Yo, what is going on, guys? Joey Sherkenbach is back here with another video for you guys. Guys, Saturday afternoon, doing it earlier now because Saturday football is back. Gotta love that, man. It's that time of year where the NFL starts scheduling games on Saturdays, so going to do it now earlier, more like Saturday afternoon rather than Saturday night. And as you guys see, I am now in Baltimore, ready to go to the game tomorrow against the Packers. Cannot wait, man. So excited, and I hope to see some of my fans there. So if you guys are any Ravens fans tuning in and are going, keep me posted, and I'm happy to meet up. Alright guys, so let's get into this video. First game, this is actually going to be a pretty good game, kicking off Saturday football. Of course, the Browns and Raiders were supposed to play, but COVID got in the way. So coming up with the first game, we have the 9-4 Patriots at the 7-6 Colts. This is going to be a really good game because the Patriots are hot right now, but the Colts are pretty hot too, but they're desperate for a win. The Patriots could lose a game; it's really not going to hurt them much because the Bills are as cold as it gets, and even if the Patriots lose, they're still at least a game and a half ahead of Buffalo, at least actually, because they have the tiebreaker. So, not to say that the Patriots are not desperate for a win, but the Colts are definitely more desperate. And the Patriots, they got to lose a game at some point. They've won 8 in a row, is it? Something like that. So, with that being said, I think the Colts are going to get this one. I think the Colts are kind of a bad matchup for the Patriots. Of course, Jonathan Taylor, who is having a breakout year. And the Patriots, I just think that their front seven is meh besides Judon. I don't think their run defense is very strong. I mean, the Titans kind of, even though they beat the Titans, the Titans kind of killed them on the ground without Derrick Henry. Dearness Johnson gave them a hard time with the Browns. Again, it didn't matter because the Patriots destroyed them, but still, the run defense is not, I think, very strong for New England. I think their defense is kind of overhyped. And the Colts, defensively, they're not great, and they're obviously not as good as they were last year, but they're still decent. I don't know. I think Wentz, he does like to turn the ball over, but I think if the Colts can establish a good running game and Wentz can hold back on the turnovers, I think the Colts are going to take this one. I think it's going to be a good game. But I'm going to go with Indianapolis here, 27-24. Next game, guys, this is our first Sunday game. We have the 9-4 Cowboys at the 4-9 Giants. Not really any need to talk about this one much. This should not be close. The Giants suck. Cowboys didn't play their best against Washington last week, but still hung on and won. Should be able to win this game pretty easily. I'm going to go with Dallas here, guys, 34-17. Next game, guys, we have great. Look at this crapshoot. 2-11 Texans at the 2-11 Jaguars. Oh, Borsnor. This is a game that, literally no one could not care less about. I don't even know. It has some meaning. So, this week, the Jaguars announced that they are moving on from Urban Meyer, I think is how you say it, their coach. I think he got, a lot of hype coming when he was going to start coaching, but he's just been a disaster. So, Jaguars fired Urban Meyer, not sure how to pronounce it. I don't know who's going to coach for them, but that's just a thought. It's in Jacksonville. I guess I'll take the Jaguars with a new coach. It really doesn't mean much, but I guess I'll go with Jacksonville. We'll go 21-17. Should be a game that no one cares about and no one watches. Next, Next game, guys, we have the 9-4 Titans at the 6-1 Steelers. So, Titans, they're playing okay, not great. One thing that I've noticed is, I've always been really high on Ryan Tannehill. I think he's been really underrated, and I still think he is, but he has not been playing great this year, especially over the last few weeks. He has not been playing one reason why I have defended Tannehill so much. People bash him and say, "Oh, he sucks. All he does is hand it to Henry." One thing that I really admired about Tannehill, he got the job done, and he did not turn the ball over. He didn't. He threw very little interceptions, and he almost never fumbled. That has not been the case this year. He's been throwing way more interceptions than usual. He's been losing fumbles more. So Tannehill is not playing great, for sure. The Titans' defense has played a little bit better. It's still not great, but it's been better. It's not as bad as it was last year. Titans, of course, have had big-time injury issues this year. A.J. Brown is still out as far as I know. I think Julio Jones might be back, so that's big. Still no Derrick Henry. My understanding is he's still out. He could come back if the Titans make the playoffs, but it has not been confirmed yet, and he's still out. So, Titans are still not anywhere near full strength. Steelers, meanwhile, they too have injuries of their own, but I know Joe Hayden came back. T.J. Watt's back. He's been having on and off groin injuries this year. This should be an interesting game. As the Steelers defense, just not playing remotely as well as usual. They're having a really rough year. At the same time, T.J. Watt is a leading Defensive Player of the Year candidate. But besides him, the Steelers' defense has not been very good. Fitzpatrick's having a down year. Their secondary in general has not been very good. Devin Bush has been a disappointment. So Steelers' defense is not very strong right now besides T.J. Watt. And I guess Fitzpatrick is still strong, but he's definitely having a down year. And it's in Pittsburgh, so I think this game could go either way, but I'm going to take Tennessee. I think they're the better all-around team. So I'm going to go with Tennessee here, guys. They're 27-20. Next game, guys, we have the 3-10 Jets at the 6-7 Dolphins. So the Jets suck. What's new? Even with Zach Wilson, it means nothing. He's having a really rough rookie year. Hey, Dolphins, man, coming off the bye. Seems like a good idea. Get some guys healthy and everything. And Tua Tagovailoa is playing the best football of his career. Granted, they have had a pretty easy schedule, but he's still playing pretty well. He's had like 3 straight games, I think, without turning the ball over. He's been doing pretty well, and they're coming off the bye. I guess you could argue maybe he'll be rusty, but I think a bye week in general helps the team out. So the Dolphins are going to make a little bit of a late season run here. I mean, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I thought they did at the start of the year, but you can't lose 6 or 7 in a row and make the playoffs. That's just not happening. But they could still go 10-7. If they win out, they could go 10-7. The Dolphins their playoffs have already started. Their playoffs start now. They cannot lose another game. I mean, I think pretty much everyone agrees they're not going to go to the playoffs. The AFC is too good. But if they really want to push, they cannot afford to lose another game. But they do have a couple easy games. They're playing the Jets, who suck, and I think they're playing with the Giants next weekend. Maybe I don't know. They're playing. I think they have back-to-back kind of easier games. So with this game being in Miami and the Jets sucking, I think the Dolphins are going to win this game and go back to 500. This is a big game for them, but I like the Dolphins here. They're hot right now. They've won 5 in a row. So I'm going to go with Miami here, guys. Let's go with Miami 24-17. I think it's going to be kind of close, but the Dolphins will hang on. Next game, guys, we have the 10-3 Cardinals at the 1-11-1 Lions. So, you know, last week against the Broncos was one of the rare instances where the Lions just they looked like a 1-10 and a 1 team, whatever they were, because they just got smoked. They played horribly. The Broncos smoked them. But I feel like the Lions have been in a lot of close games this year, close losses. That was not close. They got smoked. Cardinals, meanwhile, coming off the loss to the Rams. That was a little bit of an upset. Kyler Murray and Hopkins are back, but the Rams were able to pull that one out. So that's definitely a loss for the Cardinals. But this should be an easy game to get a nice bounce-back win. The Lions beyond suck. Cardinals are getting healthier. So I'm going to go with Arizona here, guys. It shouldn't be close. 35-17. Next game, guys, we have the 5-8 Panthers at the 7-6 Bills. Panthers are pretty much, I don't know if they've been officially eliminated from the playoffs yet, but they're done. They suck. They have no quarterback. Their defense is meh. They just don't have it. Bills, meanwhile, their playoffs have got to start now because they are slumping big time. I mean, they did. Now, it looked like they were going to get smoked by the Bucs last week. The Bucs had a big lead. The Bills did make a great comeback, and they pushed it into overtime. But still, they couldn't come out on top. Their defense choked in the end. Yeah, the Bills are just not playing good football right now. 7-6, man. That's just not very good at all. It's in Buffalo, though, and this is a desperate game. The Bills cannot afford to lose another game this year, I don't think. So they know how desperate they are. They're going to be pissed after that loss to the Bucs. I can't see the Bills dropping another game. I'm going to go with the Bills here, guys. 31-17. Next game, guys, we have the 6-7 Falcons at the 7-6 Niners. So the Falcons, obviously not great, but they're hanging in there a bit. But I want to talk more about the Niners. They're not out of it just yet, man. Big win against Cincinnati last week. I was watching that game so deeply because it meant so much for the Ravens. After the Ravens had lost, needed Cincinnati to lose, which they did. So thank you, San Francisco. Thank you very much. Boy, I was really worried they were going to choke. It looked like they were going to, but they hung on. Brandon Ayuk, I think it was, got the game-winning touchdown. Love to see that, at least from a Ravens standpoint. So the Niners are not out of it. They've been very back and forth this year. They've had their rough moments, but they're standing at 7-6, which I know is not great. But I wouldn't think that they would be 7-6 after that cold streak they had. So they're still in the playoff conversation. I don't know if they're going to make it, but they're still trying. Again, another team where their playoffs start now. They can't afford to drop another game. In San Francisco, the Falcons are a scrappy team, though, and I actually am going to take Atlanta here. For some reason, Atlanta seems to have the 49ers number. I remember in 2019 when the Niners were so good, the Falcons, who were not good, actually went in and upset them. I remember it was like a 22-17. Actually, no, it was less than that. It was a low-scoring game, but the Falcons actually won that game. And so, I don't know. I think the Falcons kind of give the Niners their stiffs. And I know that the Falcons are not very good, and I know that the Niners are desperate for a win. But I don't know. The Falcons are a weird team. I think they're going to pull off this upset. So I'm going to go with Atlanta here, guys. 24-21. Next game, guys, we have this is another big AFC battle. 7-6 Bengals at the 7-6 Broncos. Two teams, man, we have a lot of good games. We do have some really bad games, but we have a lot of big playoff implicating games coming up. So 7-6 Bengals at the 7-6 Broncos, both teams battling hard for a playoff spot. The Broncos, I think, are the same, really similar to the Niners. Get off to a great start, then fall off a cliff, but now are kind of hot again and still have a chance. They're not out of the playoff picture just yet. 7-6, they still could make it. The AFC is so up for grabs, man. I really don't think there's any number one dominant team. Kansas City and New England have arguments, but even they, I think, have their flaws. Every team has flaws, but I just don't think there's any number one dominant team. So the Broncos still have a chance. I think that the loss for the Chargers with KC winning, I think that actually benefited the Broncos because they're pretty much said that they're not going to catch up with the Chiefs. But if the Chargers lose, the Broncos could catch up to, the Broncos could catch up to the Chargers. So I think that was big for the Broncos that the Chargers lost, if I'm saying that correctly. Bengals, meanwhile, they're in a slump right now. Again, coming off that loss to the Niners last week. They made a nice comeback at the end, but could not finish the job. So the Bengals fighting for a playoff spot, they got to get their stuff together. I don't know. A lot of people were doubting them. They said, yeah, they're not that good. They're not that good. And I thought that too. After they smoked us in week 7, I think it was, I was starting to get convinced. Then they kind of had a rough patch, and they kind of got hot again, and now they're slumping. So will Joe Burrow and this very young Bengals team be able to rally his team into the playoffs? We'll see. I don't know who to go with here because I like the Broncos, but they're so inconsistent. They're coming off a dominating win to the Lions, so that will give them some motivation. But the Broncos can look good, but they can also look like absolute crap sometimes. Same with the Bengals, I guess you could say. But I'm going to take the Bengals here. I don't know. The Broncos are just so really anyone's guess. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I think it's going to be close, but I like Cincinnati pulling this one off 30-23. It should be a very good game. And here we go, guys. America's Game of the Week. We have the 10-3 Packers at the 8-5 Ravens. So, Packers, I know they've been an interesting team this year. They're not as injured as us for the Ravens, but they're pretty close. They have had so many injuries this year. Their whole offensive line has been hurt. Aaron Jones was battling some injuries. Jair Alexander, Zadarius Smith, Bakhtiari's working his way back. But, yeah, the Packers have had no shortage of injuries this year. And, of course, the Ravens, no one more injured than them. And this is the first game we're going to have to play. Second game we're going to have to play this year without Lamar Jackson. Now, granted, it's not confirmed, but he has not practiced all week. He did end up spraining his ankle. I can't see Jackson playing. I know this is a big game, but if Jackson's not healthy, they're not going to push him. I really hope they don't. The last thing I want is us to rush him out there and then have him get hurt, re-injure it, and make it worse. So I'm assuming that Tyler Huntley's going to be the quarterback. I don't think Jackson's going to play. Of course, the one game I go to, Jackson's not playing, but all right, I can't be picky. So the Ravens, I should say, definitely desperate for a win. Lost 2 in a row now. 2 games that we absolutely should have won. 2 games that we were in and definitely could have won, but we didn't. And, it's going to catch up to us. And, some people say, the injuries, we've been able to overcome them for so long. Now they're going to catch up to us, and we're just going to go on a total choke job. I still refuse to totally commit to that because the Ravens, we are such a battling team. Harbaugh is such a great coach, and a lot of times we find a way to make it work and we get it together. And I still think we can do that this year, but it's looking a little dicey. 8-5 is not bad, but it would have been a lot better if we had won one of those division games against Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Losing those really hurts. And this is a tough matchup, man. Rodgers, Adams, with our backup secondary, Anthony Averett, cornerback 1. Oh God! Now, granted, Averett has had a heck of a year. I will give him credit, but is he good enough to slow down Devontae Adams? Excuse me. I'm not so sure he is. Then the question is, what will we do? I mean, will we double team Devontae Adams? Will we play man? Will we do zone? It's going to be really interesting to see what Martindale does. But regardless, I don't think it's going to work. I think Rodgers is going to absolutely destroy this defense. It has been good for the past few weeks. We got off to such a rough start. We did not look like ourselves. Despite all of the injuries, our defense has been much better the past few weeks. Ever since we went on lockdown against the Vikings, our defense has played much, much better. But we keep getting more and more hurt. No Calais Campbell. He's battling a thigh injury. So it's going to be Aver and Young that have to take care of Adams. I guess Jimmy Smith should be back because he missed last game for a personal reason, but he is quote-unquote healthy right now, so that's good. But regardless, the Ravens have got, I think the key for the Ravens in this one, we can't, and I mean cannot afford to start off slow. If we start off slow, we're screwed. We have to score in the first quarter. This whole starting off slow thing is not going to work. Last week, what was the biggest reason why we didn't win that game? I mean, I know we made that comeback at the end, but we started off too slow. The first quarter, we did absolutely nothing. On offense, at least. First quarter, our offense has got to be better. So we'll see what the Ravens have dialed up. Got to be better in the first quarter, though, and that's going to be the key in tomorrow's game. But I think the Packers are going to win this game. They are so battle-tested. I guess the Ravens are really battle-tested, too, but I trust Rodgers over Tyler Huntley, no offense. I think when it comes to the big games, Rodgers in general knows how to win these big regular season games at least. Playoffs are a little bit of a different story, but regular season, he almost always finds a way to win these games. I'm going to take the Packers here, guys. I think it's going to be a great game, and I cannot wait to go. I'm so excited. I think the Packers are going to pull this one out, though. Just side note, we are 2-0 when I go to Ravens games. I was at the Ravens-Eagles game in 2016, that thriller 2-point conversion game, and I was at the Bucs-Ravens game 3 years ago when we won. I think it was about 2012. It was not the most entertaining game, but a win is a win. We're 2-0. I think we're now going to be 2-1 when I go to a game. I think the Packers are going to win this game. Should be a great game. I'm going to take Green Bay here, guys. I think I'm setting the bar high. I'm going to go with Green Bay 45-30. Okay, guys. I just think their defense is going to fall apart. 45-30. Packers. I think the Ravens will be able to move the ball a bit, but we're not going to be able to keep up with them. All right, guys, this is our last game, our Sunday night football game. We have the 6-7 Saints at the 10-3 Buccaneers. So, first off, the Saints, they're not totally out of it, but they're most certainly going to miss. And the Bucs, of course, red hot right now. They have their little skid. They have gotten it together. I mean, they did kind of almost choke, to be fair, to the Bills last week. But they're still playing really good football, especially on offense. And their defense can at least hold the fort down for the most part. So the Bucs, I mean, they're really good. But at the same time, the Saints, for whatever reason, have the Bucs number in the regular season. The Saints beat the Bucs earlier this year. It's strange. The Saints really seem to have the Bucs number. Granted, the Bucs did beat the Saints last year in the playoffs, but then last year the Saints swept the Bucs. So I don't know. The Saints give the Bucs a hard time, but I can't see the Saints winning this game. The Bucs are hot right now. It's in Tampa Bay. The Saints are hurt. They're not remotely as good as they usually are. So I'm going to go with Tampa Bay here. I do think that I could see the Saints pulling off the upset because, again, for some reason they give the Bucs a hard time. But I'm going to go with the Bucs here, guys, 34-20. And guys, now this is where things get interesting. So this is a late Monday afternoon game at 5 Eastern time. We have the 6-7 Raiders at the 7-6 Browns. This game got moved because of COVID. So the Raiders there, I mean, after that win actually to against the Cowboys, besides that, they have not been playing well. Their defense has gotten worse. Their offense is just kind of meh. Waller is kind of having a down year, and of course he has some health issues. Browns, meanwhile, coming off that big win against Baltimore last week, but it was really looking like the Browns were going to run away with it and they were going to have a comfortable win. Did not happen. They just, as I said, the Browns are just incapable of blowing teams out. They cannot get it done. They cannot blow teams out. They've done it once. They did do it to the Bengals. I'll give them that. But besides that, the Browns just don't want to blow teams out. They want to make every single game way the heck more work than it should be and, make it a heartbreaker. Or I guess not a heartbreaker in this case, but make it a really close game. So coming off the win against the Ravens in a game that it looked like they were going to win by a lot, and they only won by 2, and were damn close to losing. Yeah, you know how frustrated a Ravens fan like me is. But anyways, it's in Cleveland. And the Browns, I feel like I've said this a lot, but the Browns, another team, their playoffs start now. They can't lose another game. They have been a massive disappointment this year, but they got to get it together. And of course, this game got moved because of COVID, so the Browns have a ton of people on the COVID list. Baker Mayfield was one. A lot of their defenders did. Their offensive line did. Now, they moved it, so I don't know how many players are going to get back. I don't totally know whether they're vaccinated or not, what the policies are. So we'll see. I'm sure they'll have some of their guys back. I don't think they're going to have everyone back, so we'll see what happens. But I like the Browns here. I mean, the Raiders just are so inconsistent, and the Browns are too, but the Browns are so desperate for a really stellar, dominating win. So I'm going to go with Cleveland here, guys, 27-17. Next game, guys, this is our regular Monday Night Football game. We have the 6-7 Vikings at the 4-9 Bears. So, the Vikings still hanging on to some playoff hopes. They're not out of it just yet, but it's going to be pretty tough. Bears, meanwhile, suck. They were hanging in there for the first several weeks, but they've fallen off. They're just not good. Dalton's been battling injuries. Fields just isn't that guy. Their defense is not as good anymore. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings here, guys. I think they're much more desperate for a win. They still have a slim chance at the playoffs. So I'm going to go with the Vikings here, guys. Let's go with Minnesota. Let's go with Minnesota 30-20. And two more games now. Now, this is on Tuesday night. Two Tuesday night games at 7 because of COVID. Both of these games got moved. We have the 6-7 football team at the 6-7 Eagles. So the Eagles, man, they're still hanging in there. I got to give them credit. I really didn't think the Eagles were going to be a playoff contender this year, and they're a very weak contender. But I thought they were going to kind of suck. They don't. They still are hanging in there by a thin thread. Football team, meanwhile, they were on a hot streak, and then they kind of played like garbage last week against the Cowboys. They made a little comeback, but they ended up losing. It's in Philadelphia, but I think the football team is the better team here, and they're really fighting for a playoff spot. As are the Eagles, but I think the football team is the better all-around team. So I'm going to go with Washington here, guys, 27-20. And this is our last game, guys. We have if I can figure out how to look at this, there we go. 5-8 Seahawks at the 9-4 Rams. This should be a pretty interesting game. So Seattle, I think, has won 2 in a row now, so that's good for them. Rams, meanwhile, coming off a big win against the Cardinals last week. Monday Night Football, Stafford, I guess, I said I've been critical because of his inability to beat good teams. He did just beat the Cardinals, though, so got to give him credit where it's due. Donald had his best game of the season last week. He played his heart out. He had, I think, 3 sacks, a couple quarterback hits, some tackles for loss. Donald played very well last week. He hasn't had his best year, but he's still very good. It's in LA. The Seahawks suck this year for whatever reason. The Rams are coming off that big win. They know that they need to stay ahead of the pace. So I'm going to go with the Rams here, guys. 31-13. I don't think it's going to be that close. And guys, that is going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And I am out. Peace out. Have a great night, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Go Ravens, man. I cannot wait to go to the bank tomorrow. It should be so fun. And I will see you guys after the Ravens game tomorrow. Not totally sure what time, but I will see you at some point then. And if anyone's there, I'll meet you at the bank.